What's up, world? We at the Live to Be Legendary podcast. We have a special, oh my goodness, a special guest, legendary guest. This man has a hell of a life, you know. Been out here, activism, did some time, came home, got right to the ground. Been doing work, putting on for our people. A great voice in the community. He's getting a lot of awards, and he's even traveling the world right now, spreading his message. And he's mentored me as well with what I do in the community as well. And he's a great mentor, a great friend, one of my angels. Give it up, y'all, for the General, Riddick.
So what's going on, Riddick? It's your boy Scoe, y'all. Before we get started with anything, I want to ask you, who was Riddick before the incarceration?
Before I answer that, I want to thank this platform, Live to Be Legendary podcast, for allowing me to give a glimpse of my story and just touch on some important topics. But who was Eric Riddick before I went to prison? I was a young boy named Man Riddick. I was the young boys out there, pretty much. You know what I mean? In an environment that pretty much perpetuated death, destruction, problems, poverty, but also love, you know, unity. It was a diverse environment, just like it is today. But I was just like everybody else. I was just like every other young boy that grew up in an environment that on a lot of occasions wasn't conducive to growth and development.
So, with that being said, what led to your incarceration and arrest?
Back in 1991, a brother lost his life to the senseless violence that, again, that we see today was the same thing. It was just back then. It was 1991. There was a lot of drugs in the community.
How old were you then? I'm sorry, how old were you then?
In 91, I was 21.
Okay.
I was 21. And a brother that lost his life, he was around 20. I actually grew up with him. Again, it was just, you know, similar to like it is today. A lot of drugs, a lot of gun violence. Our community saturated with the type of artillery that you see over in the Middle East, just like today. And a brother got killed in Southwest Philadelphia, and I was falsely accused of killing him.
Right. That's heavy, man. And so before that, you did 30 years in prison?
Yes. I went to court, you know, not knowing that, you know, the judicial system, the court system, not just in Philadelphia, but all over, actually was acting as like a new noose. You know what I mean? One of our leaders, Malcolm X, he once stated that lynching by any other name is still a lynching.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I'm speaking at venues, when asked about what happened to me in court, a lot of times I always say that I wasn't wrongly convicted, I was judicially lynched. You know what I mean? Thinking about when Malcolm made that bold statement, you know what I mean? Lynching by any other name is still a lynching, whether you get lynched on a tree with a noose or you go to court and you're not extended those fundamental rights like due process, effective attorneys, and things like that. So I walked in the court system naive, thinking that I was going to get justice, thinking there was no way that I'm going to get booked and convicted on something that I didn't do. Not knowing that, you know, the unseen hand then took the judicial system and created it as the new noose to lynch the same looking people that was getting lynched back in the 40s, 30s, 20s, 1800s, and etc. So,
of the 30 years that you did in prison, 10 of those were in the hole. Is that accurate?
Yeah, pretty much. So with me, when I went to prison, you know, just, you know, like every other young boy, you know, coming off the street. So I went into prison saying, you know, wow, you know, it was geographical. You know, we gang warring in there, you know, just taking the stuff from the streets in there. But for me, because of what happened to me in court, my thing was, I'm gonna fight this wrongful conviction. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I started, you know, although I was wilding out, I was also learning the law, studying certain things. Because with me, I even like you said, who was I before I went to prison? My thing is, I was always a fighter.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that I carried that into this next battle, which was fighting this wrongful conviction once I seen that the courts pretty much lynching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I spent spent a lot of time in the law library. I spent a lot of time listening to old heads that was once just like me, and now I'm listening to them, and they're intelligent, they culturally inclined, they're not niggas, basically, they're not American-made niggas. And they start extending that same information that they learned to me. So for me, I was like, damn. Matter of fact, when I got convicted, I never forget thinking like, damn, I didn't get convicted because I was guilty. I got convicted because I didn't know the law. And I'm thinking my lawyer is doing a good job because I didn't know the law. And once I realized that he wasn't, I realized I got convicted because I didn't know something. So from that point on, I was like, I'm gonna study everything, you know. And it was actually an old head told me one time. He said, you only can do what you know, and you're vulnerable to everything that you don't know. So from that point, I was studying everything.
So you got taken advantage of.
Right, and when you start doing that, you start challenging things in there. So for me, that's how I wound up doing 10 years in the hole. When we was wilding out, stabbing each other, they might put me in the hole 6 months, 30 days, 60 days. But once you start studying and you become culturally inclined and political, and you start teaching it, now the system is looking at you like a threat. So they put me in a hole. They said I was a leader in the Nation of Islam. You know what I mean? They said I was a leader in the New Black Panther Party, all these titles, you know what I mean? All these titles.
Because he great knowledge of self. So we have plenty of stories about people that get incarcerated, and you know they had their jail wars and them fighting in prison. But what makes Eric Riddick special is because he did 10 years in hole with the Angels. Tell him about the Angels.
So you had a few, you know, Russell Maroon Schultz.
Let them know who he was. I know he was a legend. Great book I read.
Russell Maroon Schultz, definitely. Shout out, he lost his life physically, but we was able to get him out before he passed away. But like another wise elder told me, you know, when you create a legacy, you don't die. Even if you physically pass on, just like we talking about him today, he's still alive through the legacy that he left. He touched so many people. But he was a Black Panther from back in the 60s, and him and around 4 other brothers was accused of killing a cop. And he was accused of killing a cop in retaliation for the cops killing 2 black people. And so they went to prison. He tried to escape multiple times, so they locked him down in the hole indefinitely, meaning that he couldn't never get in general population. So he was in a hole at the time that I went to the hole and met him, probably for around 20 years. Then you had a brother named Chetaway who's out in society now. He did 44 years in the hole. And there was multiple other elders. And what they did, because they didn't let him out the hole, they turned the hole into a university of political education and cultural education. And so all of us young lions that was coming to the hole, they started teaching us. You know what I mean? Teaching us, and they didn't shy away from us. They seen our zeal, and they just basically gave some direction to it. You know what I mean? And they turned it into a university. So the time that we was doing the hole, we didn't have no distraction. We had the TVs. So we started working out all day, studying all day, and as a result, we went through a transformation. You know that actually that's what I equate to me getting myself out of prison. It wasn't me learning the law, even though I learned the law. It was me studying and understanding the politics that the law was functioning in. So I wasn't just like pushing my legal issues, as Fresh can attest to. I also had a movement going on. You know, I had people protesting. I was breaking down the broken judicial system while I was in prison, calling home. My nephew was recording it, creating a videography to it, and I created a whole movement based on the stuff that they taught me in the hole. They basically taught me how to be a warrior. You know what I mean?
And let me tell you something powerful. I read Russell's book before I knew Riddick. Loved it. It was over my head though a little bit because it was so in depth. It had to be broken down, and I'm like, wow, this man been in jail longer than I've been alive, and his knowledge was so in depth. So that's how you know prison is amazing. So I read the book, and then Attraction. Then I wound up through his nephew Money. I wound up meeting Riddick through prison. Through jail calls. So I'm talking to him on the phone every day, and Riddick is helping me with my career and my mind state through prison. Never even met him physically yet. One day I'm having a show, And I don't even know he's coming home. And all I hear is, "What's up, Fresh?" I look at this man. He was so useful, so husky. And I'm like, who is this guy? But I feel like I know him, and it was him. And it's just like, one thing I want to shout out Russell for and the Angels for helping people like Riddick get the mind state right to come home and now help people like myself. Like, that's why I call him my elder, my angel, because he able to give his wisdom to me to carry to what I'm doing right now, man. He's a different, they don't make him like him anymore, actually.
Appreciate that.